What's happening, everybody? Just wanted to do a quick comparison between the 2 Happy and the 2 Point Pro. These are our two sort of most popular shortboards, and there's some significant differences between the two. I want to highlight those for you to hopefully answer some questions and help you make some decisions. The three most important things in a surfboard are the rocker, number one, the outline, probably number two, and then the foil. And that's predominantly where these boards differ, is in those three things. So let's start with the outline because that's most obvious. You're going to notice that in the back half of the board, the 2 Happy has a more straight outline than the 2 Point Pro. 2 Point Pro will have more curve through this area, which is really the business area of the board where you're driving off of and the part of the board that's most wetted when you're doing turns. And then that will pull into a narrower tail than the 2 Happy. So what that means, they're essentially similar in the front, but it's that back half that's really different in the outline. And what that means is that the 2 Happy is going to be a bit more on top of the water board, whereas the 2 Point Pro is going to sit in the water a little more. And the 2 Point Pro is also going to draw a tighter arc because it's got more curve through this area. So the 2 Happy, just from the outline, is going to be a bit more lateral, and the 2 Point Pro is going to like more of a pocket of a wave. It's going to want to kind of come around in real tight arcs, whereas the 2 Happy will be a little bit more sort of down the line, although obviously it's still a performance board, so it's straight up and down. And then what also contributes to that on top of the water feeling that I was talking about was the foil of the two boards. So the 2 Happy is going to carry more foam from the front of the board all the way through the back, especially in that business area of the board that we're talking about, which is right here. It'll be significantly thicker, even at the same thickness. It'll just carry more volume than the 2 Point Pro. And again, that's kind of like a performance differentiation, which might come down to preference, but it might come down to ability. So a sort of lower ability surfer is definitely going to gravitate toward the 2 Happy, although we have a lot of team riders and pro team riders that ride the 2 Happy. Whereas this one is going to sit more in the water because of the outline and the foil, which requires a bit more effort from the surfer. So if a board is more in the water, it's going to have a more steady feel on rail, but it's also going to take a bit more work to get it up and going. So if you watch a really good surfer, they spend a lot of time actually out of the water on the board. I'm not talking about airs. I'm just talking about when they're driving and pumping. They've got this ability to push off the board and then lift. And if you watch it maybe in slow motion or something, you'll see the board actually come out of the water a lot of the time or just barely be skimming across the surface of the water. So that denotes a certain ability and approach to surfing for something like the 2 Point Pro, which is our most high performance board in the line. Whereas the 2 Happy is much more user friendly because of that outline and that foil. Lets you just stand on it. It's going to have more natural speed to it. And it's just an easier sort of roll back and forth. The way I describe the 2 Happy, and I ride both these boards, is the 2 Happy is more mindless. You just kind of like, wherever you want to go, it just kind of goes there easily. Whereas with something like the 2 Point Pro, which is more high performance oriented, you got to really think about your edges and what you're doing and manipulate it a bit more. The other thing that's the biggest difference between the two is the rocker, obviously. So the 2 Happy is going to be a lower rockered board, and it's also going to have more of a staged rocker, which is kind of a classic Channel Islands thing that we got from my dad years ago. It's going to have a straighter section in this business area of the board, or what we also call the engine of the board. So that rocker is going to be kind of straight through this area and then curve out here and then curve out the back. And again, what that straight section through here does is it's just ease of speed. That's where most of your weight is. It's like between your feet. You can imagine that. You're kind of centered on the board. And so as you're applying weight to that, that rocker is interacting with the water in such a way that it creates natural down the line speed. So this will have an easier down the line speed to it with that stage rocker. Whereas the 2 Point Pro is a classic continuous curve. Something my dad also used to do, which we do a lot. So it's got more curve all the way throughout the board, more rocker overall, and definitely more curve between your feet. And again, that comes down to the steepness of wave, the push of the wave, the cuppiness of it, and your ability to manipulate that rocker. This will be more quicker in transitions. It'll draw tighter arcs. It'll be quicker off the bottom and tighter out of the top. Whereas this one is going to be more snappy, the 2 Happy is, than the 2-Point Pro. So I would say if you're a lower level performance surfer, this will probably serve you more readily. If you're ready to step up to something that's more performance, or you're surfing just really cuppy waves where there's plenty of push and you don't have to generate as much speed, it's more about controlling speed, which is a function of sitting in the water, which is all those 3 things together, the rocker, the outline, and the foil. This will be what you want. And so those are the 2 differences. And then also it comes down to preference. You know, we've got surfers of incredible ability that just prefer one over the other. Sometimes for a really good surfer, I might pull in the tail on the 2 Happy a bit, and I'll thin it out through this section so it sits in the water a bit more, which is a higher degree of control in sort of more extreme circumstances, or just when the waves are real pushy or you're really pushing hard. So that's it. That's the difference between the 2-Point Pro and the 2 Happy. They're both great shortboards, significant differences, and what we want to do at CI always is make good surfboards for every surfer. So we've got you covered in the performance shortboard area with these 2.